Hey everybody, welcome to episode 41 of the R&R show. And hello Ruel, how are you doing?
And hello, Richard. I am fantastic as always. What about you, my friend?
I am doing okay. I've got a little something in my throat. I just took a swig of water. It doesn't seem to go away, so I might have to stifle the urge to cough violently throughout this whole thing. I'll try and do it off camera wherever possible. But
There you go.
that hiccup cannot stifle my enthusiasm for our penultimate. Can you believe it? The penultimate. I just love saying penultimate edition of the top 100 of all time. Numbers 20 to 11. Oh my goodness.
Wow. What a journey it has been. It's not over yet, but I'm gonna have to agree with you. I do like that word penultimate. I
Yep.
think we need to use it more often in general life. But I'm excited because as we've done this, I've learned a lot. I've seen a lot of the different games that we've covered, and I feel like now we're really narrowing it down to the best of the best, obviously. And I think I have a good feeling of what's on your list, and you
Okay.
probably have a good feeling what's on mine. That's what I'm thinking. But we'll
No,
see.
you're a bit of a wild card for
At
me.
least one of mine may be a surprise to you. At least one of them.
I think you might surprise me a bit more than you think. I'm going in with eyes wide open. Do you realize we've been doing this
Nice.
since February?
Wow, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But we will not keep the folks waiting any longer. We will soon start counting down backwards from the number 20 to the number 11 and assign various and sundry games to it. But before we get going, we have to give stuff away. And this week, we are seeing a return of a very, very cool prize that one lucky viewer is going to win. It is an Azul bundle. And Ruel, I believe the last time we talked about this, you were saying that this is your wife Michelle's favorite version of Azul, the Summer Pavilion, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, she loves it, and she's actually the one that taught me this game. Normally, I'm the teacher in the house as far as board games, but Michelle, I mean, she's a real life teacher, and in this case, she actually taught me this game as well. At one of our local game nights before the pandemic, locked everything down. She taught me this. It's a beautiful version of Azul. As you can see there, the tiles are not the squares; they're more diamond shape,
Yeah.
and there's a bunch of great little things that they do in this one, and she loves it. It's her favorite version. I'm still sort of like I'm still trying to figure out which one was my favorite, but wow, this is excellent. I love the fact that we're giving away a bundle of stuff. It's not just the game;
Yes.
we're giving some other
Yeah,
goodies
yeah.
as
You
well.
also get the Azul mug, which is a very, very fine looking thing, too. And one lucky winner will get it. But, Ruel, how do they get this Summer Pavilion in their life?
I'm glad you asked, Richard. The way you're going to win this, folks, is listen to our show here and keep an ear out for the word scum, SCUM, as in scum. And when we say one of us says that word, you're going to not type in scum. You're going to type in the name of the game that we're talking about that moment. Send it in an email to contest@rahdo.com, and you'll be entered to win the Azul bundle here.
Exactly, yes. So keep your ears peeled. One of us will say it at one point. You know where to send it, and Azul Summer Pavilion could be on the way to you. And
Yes.
yeah, that's very, very cool. So, with that out of the way, I believe we are ready to begin our penultimate countdown of the top 100 games of all time. Numbers 20 to 11. And I think, like always, you're going to kick it off, right, Ruel?
Yes, sir. I'm going to kick it off. Here we are. We're number 20.
Okay, sure.
This game, let's get it ready here. Number 20 is, I mean,
Mm.
there's no doubt about this one. The
Yeah.
huge influence this has had on the industry in the last few years. It is Wingspan, designer Elizabeth Hargrave, published by Stonemaier Games a few years ago. It's a game about birds, folks, and I had no idea that I would be so into this theme. I remember when this came out, Stonemaier announced it. I was like, "Oh, game about birds, that's cool," but I had no idea how good this game was going to be, and actually how fantastic this game was going to be. It's an engine building game. It's a very simple, streamlined system where you're drawing big from a big deck of bird cards. You're going to lay them out eventually in your playmat area there, as you can see you and Jen playing there. And you're going to get this engine going of producing eggs for points, and some of those birds are going to combo with other birds, and you're going to roll dice for resources. And I mean, it's just a beautiful production from start to finish. The game is fantastic. I remember Jamie, he had interviewed or talked to Elizabeth about this on one of the many interviews I've read about this. I mean, you could have read about this game on the Wall Street Journal, folks. This is
Yeah.
how big this game
Yes.
got. He was talking about how they loved the engine building of Terraforming Mars, and now it gave him the idea, why not have a big old deck of cards like that? But instead of like Terraforming Mars, we're going to make it a little more accessible. And this game you can play in about an hour. And what I love most about this game is that theme really brought in, I feel like it brought in a whole new generation of gamers.
Mm-hmm.
People that normally wouldn't pick a game up, a modern game up. They see, I mean, you can buy this at Target now, folks.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, look, pretty birds. You get to the table, it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, we are giving folks a modern masterpiece, a modern classic in Wingspan. And that's why it's our number 20, Wingspan.
Yep. Just don't play it with Mandy Patinkin, apparently.
I was going to bring that up too. I love it. If you don't know, folks, Google or check it out on YouTube. Mandy Patinkin trying to learn this with his family. It's hilarious.
It is,
but it doesn't take away from the fact that, in my opinion, this is a modern classic.
Yeah, I completely agree. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. Basically, it's an engine building game where you're building 3 engines, each one which produces something that the other 2 engines need, trying to get all that stuff working in synchronicity. But then birds! Beautiful birds layered on top. Wonderful production. Absolutely fantastic. Worthy.
And I do want to bring up one last thing about the game. So, we're all about analog board games here. I do want to shout out the implementation they did on Steam, the app. It is one of the most beautiful implementations of a game I've seen. It's absolutely gorgeous. The animation, the music, the sounds, just
it is,
folks.
I almost put that video on for talking about this because I know you did a live stream of some other folks playing the digital implementation, where the art of the cards literally comes to life as you play the cards.
Yes,
really beautifully done. Yeah,
so
cool.
Awesome.
Alrighty, well,
cool.
a wonderful number 20. But as far as I'm concerned, an even better 19, Manhattan Project Energy Empire, which is absolutely fantastic. Oh boy, where to start? Well, basically, I've said this more than once, and I will stand by it. As far as this is probably the best worker placement game I've ever played, or the game, a nice big crunchy Euro that leverages worker placement better than just about any other one I've ever done. And it's because of the really interesting dynamics of how you place your workers out. Essentially, we are each player running a modern real world country and economy, trying to provide power for our people so our country and our society can succeed. And so we are focusing on building power plants that will generate energy in lots of different ways. But the beautiful thing about this game is as we start drafting cards that represent different means to an end, whether it is building infrastructure, whether it is investing in government that can do subsidies or what have you, we end up getting all these cards played in front of us that are different colors, and we get to activate those cards when we send our workers to matching spaces on the board. So it's a really interesting engine that we have built off to the side that is driven by our propensity to send our workers to different spots on the board. So what if I've got an engine that I really want to run, but I don't want to do the actions that'll run the engine, and trying to build with your ultimate goal of really being efficient at all times is just absolutely stunning. The game is very thematic, heavily grounded. It's a wonderful production, cool custom dice and all the rest of it. And it's just one of Jen's and my favorites of all time. It's interesting. It's actually a sequel to a previous worker placement game called just Manhattan Project, which in and of its own right was a very, very sharp design, but that one was a bit too cutthroat for me and Jen. Manhattan Project Energy Empire, which is set basically 60 years after the original game, took the cutthroat out, really upped the engine building and the crisscross between worker placement, and made one of the best games of all time. Number 19, the Manhattan Project Energy Empire.
Nice. Yeah, I was wondering where this would land. I know how highly you think of this game.
I think very highly.
Top 20. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to our number 18. After that wonderful game, this is one I know that you're going to appreciate. Our number 18, top 100 games of all time, Roll for the Galaxy. And we're just talking about engine building. This one does it. You're building the space empires, folks, and with a bunch of dice. And oh, gosh, I love this game. This was actually one of the first games I played when I got into the hobby, and honestly, it intimidated the heck out of me because all the icons.
Yes,
I was like, I'd never played a game with this many icons, but once I got through the first couple of rounds, like, okay, things start making sense. Okay, now we're doing. We're taking actions behind our little screen. We're going to set up these things. What do I want to do the most action of? Do I want to get other dice that'll help me on different planets to develop them and settle them and so forth? Oh, it's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And there's nothing, maybe it's just me, I'm biased because I love chucking dice, but there's nothing like the sound of that cup just shaking with
Yeah.
all those dice and spilling it. It's so much fun. And like, I love, love, love that you can play this game in like 30 minutes. I mean, it's pretty
Oh yeah,
relatively
yeah, yeah.
quick,
I mean, for me and
you know,
Jen,
especially for a two-player, right?
yeah, as a two-player game, we have it under 20 minutes. For us, it's almost
Yeah.
a filler.
Yeah, it's almost a filler, but boy, it's got a bunch of things going on here, which I love. It's interesting that we picked, or at least with Wingspan 20, then here 18, another engine building game. I realized probably after this game, you know, when I was still in the hobby, that hey, I like engine building. I think it's neat. I'm not the best at it. You know, I sometimes I fail to get my engine going, but I do really enjoy the process of, you know, setting something up where it'll start cranking out resources in a manner that I can use for later on, and really, you know, focus on trying to, you know, be efficient as possible and get those victory points. And as you can see, they're building a space empire that
Yeah.
will rule the universe by being the first to the allotted victory point total. And that's why it's our number 18, Roll for the Galaxy.
I agree completely. Both my wife and I love this to pieces. This is in Jen's top 10. This might at this point be her number one game of all time. Certainly in her top
wow.
5. It's in my top 20 as well. So yeah, it definitely belongs here. Such an amazing game. Although,
Yes.
if I were to complain about anything, oh my God, this game is so hard to teach. This has got to be one of
Yes.
the hardest games out there to teach by
Yeah,
far.
and that's I really and that's you know, that's why I wanted to tell that story about when I first learned the game as
Yeah.
a new gamer. It was intimidating, you know, trying to figure out all these icons and stuff, and it really took me a while to get it. But you know, week after week at the same game night that I would go, I kept asking, "Can we play it again?" Because I knew it just felt like a good game, and it was really satisfying to build that engine. And by the time I finally learned it, it's like, it's a great game, and it's still one of my favorites. Actually, there's a variant too on BGG that you can play solo, friends, and it's a really easy
Oh,
variant,
really?
solo variant, but it's fun. Yeah, it captures the spirit of the game without having to do too much AI work. So definitely check that out if you're on BGG, folks. That's Roll for the Galaxy, the solo variant.
All right. And just Roll for Galaxy, our number 18, both agreed. One of the
Yes.
best of all time. Last question about it. Does it supply? Well, no, I can't. I was going to ask, does it supply a Race for the Galaxy for you? But I wouldn't want to give away future entries on the list. So we'll just let that
Yeah.
lie for now.
We shall let that lie for now. Yes.
Okay. Then let's move on quickly before we get into spoiler territory to our number 17. And I mean, this is all engine building today, folks, because number 17 is Dominion. And
Yes.
you know, it's interesting. I often refer to Dominion and other deck builders like it as kind of broken engine building games because Dominion, which of course really is such a transformative game. You know, it's so well loved. You know, it's gotten, 14, 15 different expansions? I just got a new one in the mail within the last few weeks. I can't wait to give it a go. But
wow.
at its heart, you just have a deck of cards. And you start out with a deck full of cards. They're just money, and you can use that money to buy other cards from a public display. And you throw those cards in, and then once your deck is emptied out, you shuffle up the deck, start drawing cards again, and hope that the cards you bought will show up in the right place at the right time with the right combination of other cards so that you can actually run your engine effectively. But as often the case, that's why I say it's a broken engine, because there's all these really good things in there. If I got these two cards in at the same time, it would be amazing. But those two cards never seem to show up. What kind of engine am I making for myself? It's so brilliant. And it's actually interesting to me. When I was setting this up this morning, I realized I have never actually done a run through for Dominion. I almost feel like I don't need to because everybody's played it, right? Actually, what we're looking at today on screen is from a wonderful YouTube channel, Shelfside. I subscribe to him. I recommend everybody do. Ash and Daniel, they really dive deep in their reviews. I mean, they are not just quick in and out, and they're funny, and they have a wide variety of stuff. I love Shelfside to pieces. Cannot recommend them. Everybody, go and subscribe, but and watch their video of Dominion. They do a better job than me of explaining it, but I mean, this game spawned an entire genre. There have now been hundreds of deck builders and hundreds more games that have taken ideas from deck builders. And while this was not the first game to actually create a deck builder, I believe the old StarCraft board game actually had some basic deck building, and maybe a few other ones before that. But still, it is incredibly influential, and it keeps reinventing itself year after year after year. Every time there's a new expansion, I think, oh, well, Okay, this is going to be the one where they're just phoning it in. And every time, no, they are still finding new ways to mix it up and give us completely new and interesting twists, which inevitably, after Dominion does it, a couple of years later, you'll start seeing those twists appear in other games too.
Yes.
Because it's just, I mean, it's such a perfect, simple, elegant idea. The core game, its rules are described as ABC, action, buy, and cleanup, right? Yeah, that's the whole turn, and it's just fast, it's fun. Again, don't take my word for it. Go watch the Shelf Side video. I mean, these guys are hilarious, and again, really, really do wonderful deep dives on their games. Highly recommend them. Highly recommend number 17, Dominion.
Yeah, such a hugely influential game in it, and you know, as we get higher and higher on the list here, we're going to see these type of games that have spawned entire genres of games. And you know, as far as pure deck building, I mean, it doesn't get much better than Dominion.
Yeah.
Great choice. And here's what's funny. So folks, if you're watching this for the first time, we don't actually know what's on each other's list as we combine this, right?
Right.
And we have someone else go through them and combine the list, and then we put it together. And so I think it's really interesting that number 17 is a deck builder, and our number 16 game is also a deck builder.
Really? Okay.
Yes, and this one I rank this very highly. It is Baseball Highlights 2045.
Okay.
Y'all, if y'all know me, I'm a huge baseball fan. I'm Go Dodgers, LA for life, and I love deck building, and I love the way Mike Fitzgerald implements it here in Baseball Highlights. It is almost a perfect game for me. It's one of those games that really the theme comes out dramatically in this. I mean, it blows me away that you're gonna play 6 cards. That's it. For one little baseball game, and it totally feels like a baseball game. There's tension, there's big swings, there are really cool plays that happen defensively and offensively, and to capture that in 6 cards, again, mind blown.
Yes,
but I love it. You and your opponent, it can play up to 4, but honestly at its heart, it's a 2-player game or a great solo game. Your managers of your baseball team, you're going to start with, like your starting deck, right? These are your, standard vets and rookies. And then after each mini game that you play, you're going to draft some free agents. And that's where you're going to get your team is going to get stronger. You're going to be able to, crush more home runs or strike out more batters. And there's this really cool thing that they do in this where I play a card and it's going to have an immediate action, or some of them do, and that's going to resolve immediately. And then sometimes you'll have a card that can counter that immediately. Other times it doesn't, and you just play it as a standard duel and stuff.
It is a 2-player game specifically, right?
It says 1 to 4 on the box.
Oh, really?
But honestly, I would never want to play more than 2. Yeah, like with 3 or 4, I think it's like this round robin tournament style. I honestly don't know.
That they just try to make a 2-player.
I think it takes away from
4.
it.
Yeah.
I think it works better thematically as a 2-player because you're a manager versus a manager, right? And the solo game's great, really easy to implement. You're just playing against a deck of free agents, but I absolutely love this game, and what I love about it most, Richard, is the fact that even if you don't like baseball, you can still appreciate the design of this game. My friend Daryl, a good friend of mine, my main gaming buddy, I'm looking at the video here. I just saw Pub it.
Benny the Bear makes a special guest appearance in the R&R show.
Yeah. My good friend Daryl B. Gaiman, he and I play this game all the time. We love it. We have this ongoing battle that we do, and he doesn't like baseball at all.
That's exactly what I was just about to ask, because obviously if you love baseball, you have to play, and board games, you have to play this game. But so your friend doesn't.
Yep. And he's not the only one. I've played with plenty of people over the years that do not like baseball, yet they love this game and they'll play it anytime with me. I love it when they are baseball fans, because you really can get into the minutia of baseball. Hey, here's where I'm going to play this card, or I've gone for the hit and run here. Oh, it captures everything I love about baseball. It does deck building so well, and that's why it's our number 16 Baseball Highlights 20.
All right.
45.
And when you said up front that, I shouldn't be very many surprises. Maybe you'll surprise me a couple times. If I thought about it, yes, I would have known this was on your list, because I do know. I've never heard you talk about it before, but I mean, if you love baseball and you love deck builders, I mean, you have to play it. I have also played it myself, and it is, you're right, absolutely brilliant. So well done. So simple and elegant a system. And like you said, it just captures the American pastime just so brilliantly. Even if it is about a bunch of robots and androids playing, because it's set in the year 2045, but that's almost, it could be set today. It's not like, don't walk away from thinking, it's a science fiction. No, they just did that for funny art. It's And maybe to broaden it, I wonder, to make people like me who would say, well, okay, I'm not interested because I don't like baseball, but robot baseball, maybe. It's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that.
I think you're right. That could be part of it too. I think just to broaden the appeal even more. So those are the people who are like, baseball, whatever. But yeah, like you said, sci-fi robots hitting baseballs, I could get into that. Yep. So a really, really cool, little clever theme.
Good call. And our engine builder streak continues, but I will now have to break the streak with our number 15, one of my favorites of all time, Keyflower. And now, I suppose some people might argue that Keyflower is a deck builder, not a deck builder, an engine builder. But I don't tend to think so. It is interesting in what it does. But at its heart, this is there's so many things. Basically, at its heart, every player has a bunch of colorful little meeples. And those meeples, for the most part, are just workers. You send them out to tiles so they will gather resources, or tiles that will allow them to transport those goods from one place to another, or once the goods get where they need to go, you will actually convert them into other things that ultimately lead you to victory points. Very standard Euro. And you could you have all these tiles laid out on the board, you could just start sending your workers out there and start activating all those tiles and getting what you want. But instead, those workers are also functionally currency, because this is an auction game more than anything else. Instead of sending my workers out to the tiles that are on the center of the board and put them on the tile to do the action, I can put them next to the tile to make a bid so that building will ultimately come and be part of my little village. And so if I put a single blue on my side of the tile, that means I'm bidding one blue worker on this. And now that I've bid blue, this is a blue tile. If anybody else wants to bid on that tile, they have to bid with their own blue workers. But maybe they don't have enough to bid. And they know, oh crap, he's about to get this tile. It's about to disappear. Well, I do have one blue worker. Before it goes to my village, I'll at least send my worker out to do the action of that tile, knowing that the other player is eventually going to get it away. But then a third player might say, I'll bid 3 blue workers to get this tile, and they end up getting it. And the interesting thing that happens is the player who was actually putting their workers on the tile to not bid and get the action later on down the road, but just to do the action right now, because I need to do the action right now, the workers of that player end up going home with the player who won the bid for the tile. So you've got this really interesting interplay between players. Every worker has so much in consideration, whether you're going to use it as a worker, whether you're going to use it to bid, whether you're going to use it as a worker on your own tiles that you have collected on previous turns, and balancing all of that, knowing that at the end of the round, all players are going to get a new influx of additional meeples in all kinds of colors. Just the crunchiness and depth of this game just goes deep, deep, deep. And I have to admit, I would pretty much only want to play this as a 2-player game, because the more players you play with, the longer it gets, because everybody is just crunching overtime, because there's so much depth. Every decision you make is so important, especially because as part of setup, you end up getting a handful of tiles that you won't be able to add to your village until the end of the game, that if you do, they will be getting bonus points. The tricky thing is, I might say, oh, I've got this one that wants me to have lots of green workers. Okay, I know I have to really focus on that throughout the game. At the end of the game, somebody might outbid me for that tile, and I end up not even getting it. So I have to be planning long-term. Everything is about the short-term tactical responses to a very highly interactive, auction. But then equal focus on the really in-depth long-term strategy, because you know before the game even starts what it is you're trying to achieve by the end of the game. But you don't know 100% certain if you will be able to achieve them, because if you haven't set yourself up for success. The game is brilliant on so many levels. It's gotten a bunch of expansions, a bunch of spin-offs over the year, and I think that really speaks to just how incredibly sharp the design is. Oh, and then on top of everything else that it does, it's also a really engaging tile laying game too, because when you get the tiles and add them to your village, there are roads, and you need to make sure that the roads are connecting all the different tiles in such a way that the goods generated over here at this quarry can make it over here to this workshop so that you can actually use them. And you have to spend time and energy moving the goods around as well. So it's got worker placement, auction, tile laying, pick up and deliver. It's one of the greatest games of all time because it's so deep, so rich, and just so genre breaking the way it meshes all this stuff together. I love it ever so much. Number 15, Keyflower.
love the fact that just that video that's from the OG back in Malta, correct? And it says something though, right? That you're looking at this video and it's still to this day it
Yes.
holds its place amongst the greatest of all time.
Yep.
I think it says a lot about the legs it has and why it is so highly regarded.
Yep.
Great choice, yeah. Keyflower, nice.
Cool.
I'm gonna switch things up a little bit. I'm going from Keyflower to our number 14, which is Ameritrash at its heart, and I love this game so much. Star Wars Rebellion. Yeah, so of course you knew there's no way I was not going to have Baseball Highlights 24/5 on this list. There was also no way in heck that I was going to not have a Star Wars game on here. And in this case, it's the best Star Wars game that's available, Star Wars Rebellion. It's big, it's epic, it's a 2-player game. It says it can play up to 4, just like Baseball Highlights, but you know what? This is a 2-player game. One player is the Empire, the other, those rebel scum. That's what you're playing, and this captures everything about the whole scope of Star Wars. Rebels versus the Empire, and you're just trying to when you're on the Imperial side, you're trying to find that hidden rebel base.
Yep.
Can you find it, and can you take care of it before the game ends? And as the rebels, you're trying to hide. You do not, you're trying to stay away from Darth Vader and all his minions, and trying to survive by completing missions. And as you can see, Shay there. I mean, I'd love to play this game with Shay. I know this is his jam as well.
Yeah.
It's got, it's funny. I remember my friend Patrick. He's the one I play this game with the most. He described to me, he's like, you know what, Real? This sort of reminds me of like a 2-player Twilight Imperium. I was like, really? And
I've
sure
never heard
enough,
anybody make that up, but it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
I was really surprised, and actually, it's sort of apt because it's an area control game. You got it's a lot of card-driven things. You have your secret missions to do. You have all these different characters, and at its heart, I feel like there's a little bit of that Twilight Imperium, grand epic scope to it. You are not playing this game in 45 minutes. It's at least 2.5 hours, 3 hours. So that part of it is true. So it's not going to be for everyone, but I think as far as Star Wars is concerned, this captures so much of it. Trying to, set up yourself so you're trying to protect planets, if you're the rebels, but also if you're the Imperials, you're trying to crank out more TIE fighters, crank out more, ships so you can go find those pesky, rebels and ultimately destroy them. It's almost like this really killer game of hide and seek, if you think about it, right? You got a little hidden movement, you can move things, and I love Shay's video. It has the pew pew right there. Gosh, I love this game. It's one of those games too where the epicness of it really comes through in the gameplay. And when I play with my buddy Patrick, we always get together at his house to play this, and he's got the Star Wars soundtracks playing in the background. He has painted all the minis, and I'm gonna wear my Wookiee hoodie to that game day, and it's so much fun, and that's why it's our number 14, Star Wars Rebellion.
Yeah. Very well loved game. I guess I tend to think of it as like one big, gigantic, epic Star Wars. What if? What if Princess Leia had grown up on Tatooine? What if Luke had joined the Empire? Because it's just all the pieces are there, and based on the choices you and your opponent make, it's just like, well, they just all get cobbled together. It could end up recreating the original New Hope, or you could create something completely different. And it is very impressive. Just the thematic verisimilitude, just what a great job they do of making it. It always feels like, this is how Star Wars could have gone, as it tells these big, epic, grandiose stories.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up too. Yeah, because it's very cinematic in the gameplay. Like it really does capture, the heart and the soul of Star Wars. But yeah, you are making your own adventure there, and I love it so much. It's one of the greatest 2-player games of all time, in my opinion. So that's our number 14, Star Wars Rebellion.
Wow. Okay. Well, number 13. I started out doing engine builders. I think I'm now kind of on an auction kick, because after Keyflower, I'm gonna continue with, as far as I'm concerned, an even greater auction game. Number 13 on the list, Peloponnes, which is definitely a lesser known game from a small little independent German publisher, and it's absolutely fantastic. It tells definitely dawn of humanity, prehistory style fight for survival, and at its heart, it is a very big, lots of moving pieces, auction game. Every round, there's going to be a bunch of tiles that come out that are different ways that our our caveman era civilizations can grow and thrive. We're just starting to develop buildings and various technologies, or we're claiming land to have more arable farm territory. So I guess this must be around 10,000 years ago, around the birth of the age of agriculture. But every round, we are slowly revealing these little tokens randomly from a face-down pile that's getting us closer and closer to different catastrophes. Earthquakes, droughts, storms, pestilence, decline of our civilization. And it won't be until 3 of those tokens come out that the terrible thing will hit everybody. And so at the end of every round, okay, we flip one of these and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe there's going to be some drought in our future. Maybe not. I'm not really. Oh! The second drought came out. Okay. Next round, we could have drought, and I will lose half of all my land. Okay, what can I do? Because every step of the way, the stuff the tiles that come out are things that we are going to bid on. Much like Keyflower before it. And every round, each player is going to end up getting a new tile for themselves and extend their civilization, either adding more land or adding more technology, one or the other. And I mean, you could really be focusing on trying to grab the tiles that will protect you from the upcoming disasters, or you can protect yourself by saying, oh, look, I've got so much of this stuff. I don't mind if I lose a little bit of land. Yeah, let the droughts come, or the pestilence, or whatever it might be. So there is so much to think about, because there's always this sword of Damocles over your head just at any given time. I mean, you could just get ripped apart, and you can push your luck and hope for the best. But really, smart play means long-term planning to be prepared for whatever might come. And so coming back to the center of the game, every round there's going to be an auction. Everybody's going to get a tile. And the thing that's so brilliant about these auctions, it's so nail-biting and I love so much more than regular auctions, and this including Keyflower before it is, this is I don't know what you call it, a once and done, a once around auction, where there will only be one round of bidding. Your first bid is your last bid. So if you want that tile, you better bid appropriately. You can't say, well, I'll just go on ahead and bid 1, and maybe you'll bump it to 2, and then I'll go to 3, and then we'll go to 4, and we'll eventually get there. No, there is no time for that. If I want that tile, I have to bid as low as I can to hold on to my meager resources, but high enough to scare you away, to keep you away from it. And so I have to work so hard. It isn't slowly revealed over the course of the round how much everybody values everything. I have to know, what is the likelihood somebody's going to try and steal this from me? Does anybody need this? Because, hey, it's one that's going to protect us from the flood. Probably a lot of people need it. But you know what? I don't even care about that one, because I prepared for the flood in different ways. So I can focus on this other one and maybe get away with it, because people are going to fight over that flood. But I lied. I say it's a once around, but not exactly, because I put a bid in on something. I bid 2 coins or whatever, and then somebody outbids me with 4 coins. They could go to 3, but they're going to 4, because then they know nobody else is going to want to jump to 5, right? So you always bid as high as you can. I've now got loose coins, and I can send those 2 that I got outbid to another tile somewhere else. And maybe that was my plan all along. Maybe I just wanted to bump that flood protection that I know you needed, and knowing full well, what I'm really doing, I'm putting the 2 there because I need to put 2 to get this other tile over here. I know you're going to bump me. I'm making you pay more, and then I'll get what I really wanted. And then on top of all of that, if that just gives you hives thinking about all the mind games and the strategies and all that, there's another option too, because every round when new tiles come out, there are ones that are available to bid on, but then there are tiles in the conquest row. And those ones you can just buy. So this is an auction where you can say, okay, I'm gonna engage in auction. I'm gonna try and bid. I'm gonna try and be smart and outplay my opponents. Or I can say, to heck with all that. I'm just gonna go to the really expensive aisle at the prehistoric grocery store and just get exactly what I need, and nobody can take it away from me. But you'll go broke very fast doing that. But sometimes that's what you need to do, because you can't risk somebody else taking something from you. So it's a fast game. You're constantly accruing all kinds of resources. There's tons to think about. The game has actually had a bunch of expansions over the years, because again, this is like a little passion project from a small independent publisher called Iron Games, and I cannot recommend it enough. It is definitely one that has flown under the radar, but people who know it love it to pieces. If you love auctions that are incredibly tension-filled, if you love a game that can be harsh and punishing if you don't prepare and make you suffer, and then you're like me, I guess, and you will probably also love our number 13, Peloponnes.
Yeah, I've been dying to play this game ever since. Actually, we talked about this. I think when we first started working together, like over a year ago, you had mentioned this. I think it was our like top games outside of the BGG 3000 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
I forgot. Maybe like underrated games, and just the fact that like with how all the stuff going on here, I dig that whole auction mechanism, and I'm assuming it's out of print right now. Is that right? Or
I
is
think
there...
it's. I mean, I can't imagine you would be able to get it at any local game store or any online store, but I believe
Yeah.
it is perpetually available directly from the publisher. Again, it's a
Oh, okay.
small little independent publisher, Iron Games.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm subscribed to the newsletter. I get a newsletter from them every month saying, "Hey, we're making this available. We're making that available." So, I mean, this is the very definition of boutique level. If you buy this game direct from the publisher, you are making dreams come true. You are supporting. It's Bernd Eisenstein is the sole
Oh, okay.
proprietor artist
Yes.
or not artist designer of the games, and I've met Byrne a few times at Essen Spiel. He's a great guy, very passionate, and Peloponnes it's the best auction game of all time, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned.
Awesome. I cannot wait to play it. Speaking of best of all time, let's move on to our number 12.
Let's do it.
This could easily, this is, I talked about Ameritrash, my last pick. We're going Euro for this
Okay.
one. Number 12. I know you'll appreciate this one. The Castles of Burgundy.
Oh, thank
By-
you. Yes.
By the master, Stefan Feld. I'm going to go back a little bit. This is another game that was early on in my gaming, I don't know, career, I guess, or when I first got into the hobby. I was intimidated by this one as well. I mean, I saw all these different colored tiles. I saw these dice, people using dice in ways I never used them before in a game. I was like, whoa, wait, what? You can change the dice with these workers? What's going on here? And it turns out it's a masterpiece of a design. And for me, it's my favorite Stefan Feld game of all time. And I look at I think it came out in like 2011,
Something like that. Yeah.
I feel like this has been around forever, and
Yes.
yet it's still a relatively newish game. I mean, 10 years, I guess, but you can see the new version here that you were playing.
Yeah, this was
with
an
Jen
anniversary
right there.
edition that came out a few years ago. Yeah.
That's right. I love that edition. As much as I complain about Stefan Feld as far as like colorblind accessibility, that doesn't stop me from playing this game. I went out on my old copy and I made it colorblind accessible by marking everything down with a pen. This is blue, this is green, because
Yep.
that's how darn good this game is. I mean, you're laying down tiles in your little fiefdom here and trying to expand your empire or whatever, and you're using the dice that you got to grab goods and resources and everything else, and it's so good. Everything's intertwined and it just works so well together. It's just a beautiful game. Now, play this at 4. I don't really like it at 4. I love it at 2. I think 2 player is like the really sweet spot for this game. I think 4, it goes a little too long for what it is. I mean, I'll still play it at 4, but I prefer 2 at most.
I completely agree.
but
Do not play
know
Burgundy
you're-
at 4 unless it's for experienced players.
Exactly. Yeah,
Otherwise,
agreed.
it is long.
Yeah, it is much longer, and I love this game so much, and it could have easily been ranked higher, but there are other games that we'll talk about, but this is, in my opinion, Stefan Feld's masterpiece. That's why it's our number 12, The Castles of Burgundy.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting. What we're doing today, folks, is this is a mishmash of my favorite games of all time and Ruel's favorite games of all time. In case it wasn't obvious, we send our list to a third party who adjudicates and makes sure that there's no overlaps and whatnot. And I mention all this because Castle of Burgundy is my favorite Feld of all time as well. I said in a few episodes back, we weren't done with Feld because, of course, Burgundy was coming. And the only thing that surprised me is it's you talking about this today. Because if it's you talking, that means you rated it slightly higher than I did. And
Ooh.
and this is one of my favorite games of all time. It's Feld at his absolute best. And I actually, this so warms the cockles of my heart and makes me love you even more, man, that you rate Burgundy higher than I do, and it's my favoriteest game of all time. So well played, sir. Oh my gosh, Castle of Burgundy.
Thank you.
And for folks, what's that?
I was just gonna say, I'm not gonna lie, I was super excited about this episode because I knew you were gonna love my pick.
Oh yeah, totally. Like I said, I'm just surprised it's you talking about it instead of me, because I figured for sure. I mean, I knew you liked it too, but I thought I would rank it higher than you. You rank it higher than me. That is mind blown.
It's fantastic.
And the other thing I wanted to mention, there are now basically 3 looks to Burgundy. There's the classic look, which is the one you talked about that you literally had to take a Sharpie to, and then there's what I just showed in the video, the anniversary edition that came out a few years ago, and I believe coming soon to GameFound, there is
Oh,
going to
yeah.
be a new super duper deluxe, completely revamped, includes actual minis and really stunningly gorgeous artwork version coming soon. I cannot wait. I am literally salivating with excitement and enthusiasm for the future of Burgundy. I know Burgundy's been
Yes.
around forever, but Burgundy keeps reinventing itself, and I can't wait to see
Yeah.
what's next. Number 12.
Agreed. And since we're on the topic of Castle Burgundy, let's talk about real quickly the roll and write version and the card game version.
Okay, let's
I enjoy
all
both of
Burgundy
them.
all the time.
All Burgundy all the time. I don't know about you. I enjoy them both.
Yes.
I think they both capture the feel and the
Yes.
flavor of the original in different ways as well. A card based one and then the roll and write. I think they're both wonderful.
I completely agree. The card-based one is basically everything you get from Burgundy in about half the time. Although, actually, surprisingly, more table real estate. The weirdest thing about Castle Burgundy,
That's
the
one
card
thing
game,
I don't
is
like about the
it's
card game.
so huge.
It's a huge table hog.
And then Castle of Burgundy, the dice game, which is a very fast little, super efficient roll and write that really just focuses on the tile laying aspect of the game, is brilliant. I love all the Burgundies. And I have the offshoot, Castles of Tuscany, which is basically like a stripped down, streamlined version of Burgundy as well. Can't get enough. But in spite of all that, in spite of my deep love for it, I rank even higher, number 11 on our list, Nations. And oh my gosh, this game is always been so near and dear to my heart. I love it to pieces. It is a game about early dawn of civilization. I just had another one of those a little bit ago with Peloponnes. Although this one is one of those ones like Through the Ages or whatnot, or Sid Meier's Civilization, that tracks mankind's origins all the way up to the modern day, or almost to the modern day, as we go through different eras, and we are constantly running into different real world historical people, places, and things, and kind of like Star Wars, we talked about earlier, how that's just kind of like, it takes all these things and hodgepodges them, and you end up getting telling a new story. This creates a new history for humanity, where Confucius was actually an Islamic scholar, because that's just how it kind of worked out in your world that you have evolved over time. And just aside, I absolutely love that kind of storytelling. I love saying, based on my ancient Persian empire, how did it grow? What did I focus on? What Abraham Lincoln, came from Persia. Who knew? I love that. I know some people dislike it. I think it's part of the fun. But put all of that aside, because at the end of the day, pretty much all civilization games, if they want to have real world historical elements, you end up in that situation. That's fun. It's fine. But let's talk about the gameplay. This is, what would you even call it? I guess its number one mechanism is card drafting, because every round there is a grid of cards, and players are going to take turns grabbing them and adding them to their own player mat. And the ones that are higher up on the grid cost a little bit more, and so there's a lot of tension, because every round a big flop. It's like, I forget, it's different based on the number of players. I think it's anywhere from 9 to 16 cards comes out every round, and players are just going to take turns grabbing them and watching their civilization grow in very thematic, historically grounded ways that are really satisfying. And these cards represent all different kinds of things: ancient wonders of the world, technological advancement, great cities, colonies, depending on what type of direction that your civilization is going to take. But all of these cards don't do anything unless we people them. And so we have a big collection of meeples, and we can take these meeples and assign them to all these cards, so they will get to work, doing the technologies or harvesting the resources that we need, or whatever it might be. But you never have enough of these meeples to really activate everything you want to do. And also, the more meeples that you have applied to these cards, the more resources they are going to suck up, because you have to keep them fed and happy and alive. And if you don't, well, things will not go very well for you. And it's hard. There's nothing really game-breaking, genre-breaking about this. This is all pretty straightforward stuff. It's not like, oh my gosh, it's an auction game where the workers are your bidding chips. It's nothing like that. Everything here is just done pretty straightforwardly. It's the way it all comes together. Although I will say there is one thing that I think is absolutely brilliant, that I think puts this above all other Civilization games, and it's the way it handles warfare. Because, of course, a Civilization game, if you want to capture the full sweep and scope of human history, you kind of got to pay attention to that too. So some of the cards that can be drafted for will actually start wars that will be resolved at the end of the current era we're in, after we're done drafting all cards. And as soon as somebody grabs one of those cards, based on their current military might, they create a target that every other player has to hit. Any other player who doesn't get their military up that high by the end of the round is going to suffer some setbacks. Or alternatively, you can say, I don't care about military at all. I instead will focus on ensuring my country's internal stability will be high enough by the time we hit the end of the round, so that, yeah, even though the war would hit us because we didn't have a strong military, we don't care. We can slough it off because we're such a strong, stable society. And I absolutely love that there is this sense of war. And it's a direct comparison, because if somebody with a really weak military is the first to, if you have a really weak military, you might want to grab that army card right off the gate, knowing full well that, you're going to create a military campaign that nobody else cares about because everybody's strong enough to avoid this. You took it as a protective, defensive mechanism so that nobody else could take it and then put the screws to you, because all of a sudden, crap, I know I've got to deal with this. Now, there's a third way to deal with them, which is, okay, I don't care about my stability. I don't care about my military. I have just ignored both of those, and I focus so much on, I'm back to engine building, by the way, but to the engine of my society can produce so much stuff because we haven't focused on these other things, trying to make a more stable government, trying to make a stronger military. We're just trying to make the people happier. We've got so much that we can afford to lose a little bit. And again, I love this. It's so simple and clean, and captures history in a really smart thematic way without requiring what pretty much all of Nation's competitors do, which is eventually, sooner or later, I'm going to start destroying your stuff. I'm going to start stealing things from you. And this game doesn't do that. It is an indirect way of capturing warfare that I think works and is smart. And then it does everything else a Civilization game should do, just best of class. It is absolutely phenomenal. I'm just talking about it now. It just makes me want to play it so much, because I know at the end of a session, we will have gone through such an incredibly epic rise of humanity, rags to riches story, with all kinds of interesting twists along the way. It's absolutely phenomenal. Number 11 on the list, Nations.
Wow, nice choice. Quick question. Have you played Nations the Dice game?
Yes, I have. And the Nations the Dice game is very nice. Although I would strongly recommend Nations the Dice game with the Dynasties expansion. Because one thing I didn't say about Nations, it's very important too. Everybody gets to have a starting society, ancient world society. And there are options where everybody has the exact same starting setup, or everybody has a really unique variable setup with focuses on different strengths and weaknesses. And we have no military, but we're really good at building wonders, or whatever it might be. When you get the Nation Dice game Dynasties expansion, it brings that unique variable. Everybody has their own unique special thing, and really elevates that game too.
Nice. Awesome. Wow. We are getting close to the top 10, friends.
That's it.
Wow.
Yes. We have just finished the penultimate edition, and now we're going to be jerks, because we're going to put it on hold for a few weeks. We will not be back for 3 more weeks. Wait. Breaking news. Folks, in case you didn't know, we were actually streaming this live in front of an internet audience on May 17th, 2022. And the audience just wanted to inform me that I'm a doofus. They wanted to play the role of Paulo today and point out Dynasties is the expansion for Nations. It was the Unrest expansion for Nations the Dice game. Very important. Don't get Nations the Dice game and then Dynasties the expansion, because the two will not work well together. So thank you, audience, for pointing that out. And now, what were we just saying? Oh, right. Okay. So we will do the ultimate edition of this, I believe, 3 weeks from now, because next week we're doing what's new in the world of gaming, and then we're doing a Kickstarter roundup. So we'll be back soon with the final top 10, the ultimate edition.
Yes.
But that's a bit in the future. The question for today is, folks, did you hear one of us say the secret word? Did you hear some of a talk about scum? And if so, what was the game? And if you figured that out, you know what to do. Send the name of that game as your subject to contest@rahdo.com to enter to win a copy of the excellent Azul Summer Pavilion. Right.
All right.
So I think that's it, Ruel. Did I miss anything?
No, that's everything we got to do, and wow, amazing games again that we
Yes.
talked about. I am super excited to come back. Well, we'll be back next week, but I want to see this top 10. This top 10 is going to be amazing.
I am still flummoxed that you're the one who pulled Burgundy. I thought that's mine, and I saw when he sent me, because basically, folks, whatever it was, 6 months ago, we sent our list to our friend, and he's just giving them back to us, every week. We just see these the night before, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not talking about Burgundy this week. I guess Burgundy must have been in my top, in my top 5 or something. Is that right? Yeah. And then I was like, and when then you start talking about it, like, no, you stole my felt thunder. How dare you, sir? But it makes me so happy too. So
it does. Yeah. Yes, agreed. And I'm sure there'll be like 1 or 2 surprises in the top 10.
I imagine so. Yeah. Okay, folks.
Can't wait.
Well, that was it. I want to say thank you to Ruel and thanks everybody for watching. And join us again next week when we'll be talking about all other kinds of fun R&R stuff. Have a nice day, everybody. Talk to you later. So long. Bye-bye.